the Earth's population 100,000 years to reach 1 billion people. 100 more to reach 2 billion. And only 50 years to double it. 100 more to reach 2 billion. And only
Inferno.
50 years to double it.
We are destroying the very means by which life is sustained. Why do we demand peace on Earth? We are destroying the very means by which life is sustained.
Single global hill that plays
Attacking
how
does it
population.
Why do we manage nothing changes?
Tell them there's humanity.
It is said that the deepest circles of hell are reserved for those who remain neutral during a time of crisis. In my case, I need to talk about Inferno, because God knows what will happen if I don't.
We've got one more to go, folks, and it's quite possibly the craziest, most insane Langdon novel yet. Well, besides Da Vinci Code. The movie, interestingly enough, was originally supposed to be based on the previous novel, The Lost Symbol, but production kept getting delayed, so by the time they were getting somewhere, Inferno came out, so they decided to skip Lost Symbol altogether and go straight to Inferno.
Was that a good decision, or not? Let's find out. This is Inferno, the book and the movie.
So we open on this guy. He's running. And then he jumps off a tower in Florence, Italy, after being confronted by some guys. It's unique, I'll give it that. And then we see Robert Langdon wake up in a hospital, and... I need to stop this right here and discuss. This movie looks terrible. The cinematography is always so up close and in your face. I swear 90% of these shots must be handheld, and that's not a good thing in this case. The editing is so annoying. There's these quick cuts to these visions all the time, and they're so poorly integrated with reality. I get that Ron Howard probably wants us to feel Langdon's disorientation, but it's hitting a little too far home for me. I'm not kidding when I say watching this movie gave me a headache because of all this. Few movies managed to do that, so congrats Inferno. You know, the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons movies, say what you will about them, at least had good production values, cinematography, and editing. I can't even say this about this one.
And trust me, it gets worse.
It quickly becomes apparent that Robert Langdon is suffering from memory loss, and can't remember what happened for the previous 3 days. And he's in Florence for some reason, and there's a mystery that needs solving. Totally an original plot. And then this woman named Vayentha shows up and starts shooting at him, so his nurse helps him up and they both escape. This is Sienna Brooks, played by Felicity Jones. She's just kind of there to help him and be along for the ride, because she was just there at the beginning. Now, why is she important? That's a good question. I'll answer that later. Unfortunately, the movie glosses over her rather extensive backstory presented in the book. To sum it up, she was a child genius who wanted to make the world a better place, but had an epiphany when she realized that would be a, well, very hard thing to do, after a rather traumatizing encounter on a volunteer mission. So now we're here at Sienna's apartment, where we get this.
Well, it's brown and it's hot, and well, people drink it in the morning for energy.
Tea.
Tea. No, the other one.
Coffee.
Coffee. Could I have a cup of coffee? Coffee.
He can't remember the word for coffee.
Coffee.
But he can remember his Gmail password. Logic. At this point, there's a lot of exposition and explaining in the book that is hard to get across smoothly in the movie. Da Vinci Code had this problem too, but there's so much more right here that it's just annoying. Basically, they find some laser pointing thing in Langdon's jacket, and it points out a Botticelli painting, the map of Dante's Inferno. But it's got a hidden code in it that says Cerca Trova, meaning seek and ye shall find, which references some other painting that I can't be bothered to remember, because if this movie is not going to put in the effort, then I will not either. And then they make a connection somehow to this fella, Bertrand Zobrist. He's a billionaire scientist who was concerned with the overpopulation of the world and then disappeared. He's the guy that jumped off the tower in the intro. By this logic and these circumstances, they assume that he's created a plague to kill off half the world's population.
What a guess. Would you believe it's actually correct?
Somewhere in between all that, we see this group of people chasing Langdon and Sienna. And this is where the book does something way better. In the book, you're led to believe that this woman, Elizabeth Sinsky, is being held captive by these people, and that these are just evil police guys who have some ulterior motive. But the movie outright tells us who they are, the World Health Organization. Kinda clues you into the inevitable twist later on that these are actually the good guys. And then we see this group, the Consortium. The intro page talked about these guys. Funnily enough, Dan Brown claims that they are a real group. He just changed their name for the sake of secrecy. Sure. We also meet the head of this group, only known in the book as the Provost. Although they give him a name in the movie, Harry Sims.
Way to choose the least threatening name possible. Now, the Provost, that's such a cool, mysterious sounding name. But Harry Sims, that's the guy I sit next to in my biology class. Come on.
That's Irfan Khan playing him, and he gives the best line in the movie.
So let's do our level best not to fuck things up any worse than we already have.
Just look at his motion as he utters that curse word. Beautiful. So Zobrist hired the Consortium to protect him while he developed the Inferno virus. He planned to unleash it shortly after Langdon woke up from the hospital. He got the Consortium to hide him and unleash the virus when the time came, and then released this video to the world. But now the Provost changed his mind after watching the video, as Zobrist explains everything, making him decide that this is a bad idea.
He just watched a video. He broke his trust with his client by watching it before it was supposed to be released, and now wants to fix everything. Now of all times. That's stupid.
Blah blah blah, Langdon and Sienna get to a museum after being chased, there's a drone that somehow misses them, all too similar to the Da Vinci Code again, blah blah blah. This woman recognizes him and takes him to see Dante's death mask, but oh no, it's been stolen, and it seems Langdon did it. Now why don't they just detain him, or at least restrain him in some form? I don't know why they don't do that, because he's able to just walk away because of a minor distraction. And then they're in this attic area, and Sienna kills that Vayentha woman from earlier by pushing her through a ceiling painting, and she falls to her death.
And yes, I am very, very invested, trust me. Well, at least I am in the book, because reading the book doesn't give me a headache like the movie does. Fun fact, you know how most movies have a working title when they're in development so they can hide from media and stuff like that, like how Return of the Jedi had Blue Harvest? You want to know what Inferno's working title was? Headache. It was Headache. You can't make this stuff up if I tried. It's so perfect, because this movie is the literal personification of a headache.
Their next clue leads them to the Florence Baptistry, where they find the death mask, and some really weird text in a circle. One thing I will admit about these books/movies is that the clues and mystery stuff is always well done. Makes me want to rotate the book 360 degrees to read about it, because it looks cool. So this guy shows up and claims to be an ally. He goes with them on a train to Venice.
Note that I am purposefully skipping over some irrelevant story beats, so as not to make this video as long as some of the other ones I've made on these books. But it will be, knowing me.
So here we get some hints that the guy with them isn't who he says he is. The book goes through a strange, ambiguous flashback before he collapses, supposedly out of being infected with the Inferno virus. The movie just goes for thrills, as they hit him over the head and escape after Langdon gives the audience a headache instead of getting one himself, thinking he's the enemy. Meanwhile, the Provost meets up with Elizabeth Sinsky and somehow convinces her to work with him through incredibly broken logic.
You were trying to stop me from saving the world, but now you say you're on my side? I trust you!
Doesn't take Langdon and Sienna long to realize something's wrong. Langdon realizes where they need to go is not Venice, but Istanbul, Turkey. That's where Zobrist hid the plague. Once that revelation comes to light, Sienna ditches Langdon, and the World Health Organization catch up to him.
So, what happened? Well, I'm gonna preface this and say that this is gonna turn into my little rant of the episode. You know, in every other Dan Brown book movie, I've ranted a bit about something stupid. In Da Vinci Code, we had the long Mary Magdalene exposition scene. In Angels and Demons, we had the jumping out of a helicopter and surviving thing in the book. And in Lost Symbol, we had breathable, oxygenated liquid. I think this one is gonna take the cake, guys. Bear with me here. Listen. It's insane. What the hell? Haha, what the hell? Get it? Because Inferno, it means hell. It is hell. Hell is a theme in this. It is.
The movie awkwardly explains it to us by the Provost murdering that guy from earlier while Langdon watches. Yes, that does happen. The book just provides a more natural explanation. Sienna was actually Zobrist's lover. She admired his ideologies, so he recruited her to help him with his goal. She was with Langdon all along just to figure out where the plague was so she could go right to it when he figured it out.
So far, not so bad, eh? Well, not done yet.
So now, in the book, it becomes apparent that the police were never chasing them. It was always the World Health Organization, unlike the movie, which just tells us from the get-go. Now, what really happened in the past was that Elizabeth Sinsky, who in the movie was Langdon's old flame for some reason, came to him, asking for his help when she realized what Zobrist was up to. Langdon followed the trail of clues before being captured by the consortium and injected with a drug that induced memory loss. The hospital stuff and everything in Sienna's apartment was all fake. It was Sienna's doing. It was, as the Provost words it,
This was a fake.
I prefer created reality.
What the
I mean, I'll give it points for originality, but that's just so ridiculous. It's not that it doesn't make sense, it's just such a convoluted twist, and it requires so much explanation. It feels kind of like Dan Brown wrote the first half like normal, realized how similar it was to the Da Vinci Code, so he just decided to throw in this twist to turn the last part into more of a race against time type story. There is such a stark contrast between the first and last halves of this.
Okay, rant over. Not gonna let myself go for 8 minutes this time.
So yeah, like I said, the last part of this involves Langdon and Sinsky racing to Turkey to stop Sienna from releasing the plague. And I'm not gonna lie, it is actually quite good in many ways. I mean, the movie still looks like garbage, but story-wise it's fine. They visit the tomb of Enrico Dandolo and determine that the virus is in the Basilica Cistern, which is connected to the whole water supply of Istanbul, which, when released, will infect the world in a short amount of time. Meanwhile, Sienna gets there and recruits some more of Zobrist's supporters to help her.
Wait, I lied. Rant mode back on, because now we're going to talk about the ending, and how they changed it from the book to the movie, and how stupid some things are.
So Langdon and the World Health Organization enter the cistern, which is now sort of like a concert hall, and Sienna is there too. In the chaos that goes down in there, they race to get the plague. In the book, here's what happens. Sinsky goes to find it and realizes something horrifying. The plague has already been unleashed, but it looks like the bag that held the virus has been gone for a while. Sienna runs away and Langdon gives chase, eventually reaching her at the docks. Sienna comes clean and reveals that Zobrist's plan disgusted her, and the only reason she went off on her own was to guarantee that she got to the Inferno virus before the World Health Organization, because she didn't trust them and thought they'd weaponize it. Because the virus itself is revealed not to be a super lethal disease, but a randomly acting vector virus designed to make 1/3 of the Earth's population sterile, thereby decreasing population over time. At this point, the virus has already infected the entire world, so there's nothing to be done about it. The book ends with Sienna going off with the World Health Organization to a meeting to discuss further courses of actions. They're even considering the idea of doing nothing, since Zobrist was technically right about all the overpopulation stuff.
It's actually a rather brilliant ending when you think about it, because it presents so many moral conundrums and leaves you thinking, like, should we deal with the virus? Should we not? Should we just, let it do its thing and maybe overpopulation will not be an issue like Zobrist predicted it would be? It's really brilliant, and I give Dan Brown a lot of credit for it, as it's really smart, and unlike a lot of the other stuff he's written, it does make me consider forgiving the first twist, but,
Oh, right, the movie. So, I read an interview somewhere that Ron Howard sat down with the writers and ultimately decided against using this ending, because they felt it wouldn't fit a Hollywood movie well, and it just wasn't exciting enough.
So what do? Go with the most predictable trash you could imagine.
The plague is indeed a super virus of destruction, and it hasn't burst yet, and Sienna is 100% on Zobrist's side here, trying to shatter it to kill half the world's population.
Cue the terribly filmed action and boring generic ending.
Oh no, Sienna killed the provost. Oh no, Sienna killed herself to detonate the bag with a bomb she randomly had. Oh no, more headache-inducing fight scenes. And they're in water that's red because of light reflections, which makes it look a lot like they're swimming in blood. Get it? It's called Inferno, so a reference to hell. Brilliant!
But do they contain the virus and save the world? If you think no, you give this movie way too much credit.
Of course they do. Yay! Congrats, movie! You suck!
You had a great ending, just gift wrapped for you. And what do? You just...
Oh yeah, and let's have Langdon return the death mask for good measure.
And that was Inferno. I'll be honest, I'm a bit conflicted about this one in many ways.
Like I said, the book starts off rather slow. The mystery of your first read does add to the tension, but the chase stuff isn't that interesting. The twist is pretty nuts, as I said before, but it does lead to a great finale and a thought-provoking ending. It's a novel that gets better the more it goes along, and if you're okay with that, then you'll be in for some good stuff. It's kinda strange, because I should feel the same way about the movie, but I just can't. The handheld, shaky, terrible filming style of the movie actually gave me a headache while watching it. Maybe that was the intent, but if so, they went way too far with it. It adds in all these really stupid, unnecessary details and imagery that doesn't help it, and all of the really cool stuff seems to be taken away, including the great ending. It's such a shame that the admittedly good novel was butchered so much when translated to film. My advice, read the book, don't watch the movie. It is easily the worst movie out of all the ones I've talked about. As for the book, I think I like it more than The Lost Symbol, but less than The Da Vinci Code, and Angels and Demons is still the best in my opinion.
Well, that's it. I have covered every Robert Langdon novel and movie. In the end, it's an interesting series. It's not the best, but I do give it quite a bit of credit for being creative and thought-provoking in some areas, even if some things are terrible. But it's not over. There's a new one coming out soon called Origin. It's apparently about modern art, and it's set in Spain. I don't know, I will be buying it and reading it, you know. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully they don't make a movie out of it, though. Yeah, I don't want to have to talk about it. But I will make a review of it, though. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Who knows, maybe I'll make more of these since I can't do Let's Plays too much anymore in college. I will see you guys next time. Adios, home slices.